Hello guys, this video is going to be all about long distance relationship. I feel like if you're in a long distance relationship currently, if you're in a situation where you've met someone and the dynamic of your relationship means you're going to have to be in a long distance relationship, I kind of just want to make a video on my experience and what I had been through, and I feel like what more or less worked for me. Guys, I can see like the stats of like how many people watch my videos who are subscribed and not, and the amount of people not subscribed is 90%. 90%. You know how bad I would have wanted that for my schooling life, but not here, not here. Here I want less than 90%. I want most of you subscribed, not subscribed, subscribe. So please hit that subscribe button. I should put this at the start of my video, not at the end, because a disclaimer before I start that obviously every long distance relationship is very different, and what works for me may not work for you. Obviously, this is just my experience, what I have been through, and if you resonate or want to apply anything that I felt worked for me for yourself and you find it helpful, amazing. That's like hopefully like what we're trying to get out from this. So let me start off by explaining my long distance relationship and like where it started off for me. Mark and I met in 2019 when I did a solo Europe trip. Like I went with my best friend and I went with my mom to some other countries, but overall a lot of part of the trip was I was on my own. One of my pit stops was Barcelona, here in sunny Barcelona, and then that's when I met Mark. When I was here, we met at a nightclub. It's the most ironic thing because Mark and I are such introverted, homebody people. So for us to meet in an environment like that is just like so hilarious when we tell people our story. When he came to Australia at the start of 2020, so this was March 2020, that's when we became official. And obviously he went back home and then COVID happened. Like COVID has affected us all in so many different ways. So this is where my long distance is very different to your typical long distance dynamic. We didn't do the whole see each other and then not see each other for a certain period of time, whether that be months or whatever, and then organize a catch up to meet up together. We didn't have that. We didn't see each other because of COVID. I was in Australia. Australia had the strictest inbound law. Like we could not leave the country at all. But obviously when COVID first happened, we were under the impression of, oh my goodness, it's just like this little bug. It's only gonna be around for like 2 weeks. Whatever, it's like months passed. And we're like, oh, it's okay, vaccination is gonna come around. We'll see each other soon. Like we were very like, it's okay, it's not gonna be a big deal. But obviously that time lapsed and it got longer and longer, and more like just like uncertain of when we would actually see each other again. So this is what I mean, like our long distance is not your typical one. We went 19 months, so nearly 2 years of not seeing each other, which I know, even when I tell the story, I'm like, what? No. Essentially, if I can do 2 years of like long distance, of really not like having that back and forth of like seeing this person, what's gonna happen, then you definitely can. You've got this. Like my long distance sister or brother that's watching this that is like, just want that like, it's gonna be okay message, you've got this. But with that said, here are my tips. All right, tip 1, what I've written down is quality communication over frequency. Again, everyone's different. You gotta do what works best for your relationship. But I feel like, you know, having like superficial, surface level conversations every day because you feel the need to have to like communicate is not beneficial. Okay, so for example, for Mark and I, we always FaceTimed on weekends and like Friday nights or mornings, depending whoever it was for the other person. That said, you know, sometimes things do arise where you can't have that conversation, so it doesn't always happen, and trusting like that is part of life and that's normal and that's okay. Throughout the week, it was kind of like messaging each other, good morning, good night, how are you? Just like checking in on the other person. Like a lot of relationship long distance videos I see is like have that schedule, have that structure, and of course you need to, but like it should never be forced. They were the most exciting times and I looked forward to that. And again, it happened so natural. We kind of just would check in each other and go with the flow of it and engage the other person, communicate with the other person, and making the other person always a priority. Always, like priority was always number 1. And the thing is, when you care about that person so much and you adore that person so much, that priority is so effortless. It never feels pressured. It never feels like this strain. It just, like I said, it kind of just flows. So yes, quality communication, again, everyone's very different. That is definitely worked best for us. Number 2, I wrote maximize your senses, particularly smell and sound. So you really want to like enhance that like memory connection that you've had with that person. So what I mean by that is when we were in Australia particularly, I played the Justin Bieber album. I played The Weeknd, and I played Meghan Trainor's Treat Myself album. I love that album. I'm a huge Meghan Trainor fan. But anyway, they were the albums that I played like literally on repeat, just because like I like, part of my ADHDness, I feel like I have like this fixation of when I have found something I love, I'm not changing it. Technically, like this point of sound is kind of a coincidence, like it kind of just happened, but it works so well. I found that looking back, you know, when, like I said, months would go by of us not being with each other during that time, during that window when we were apart for so long, I would play those albums. It literally like took me back. It was so intense, like the emotions and the memories and how your brain like responds to that, and how it's like, it feels like I'm in that time again. Because that's the thing, like when I played it during that window, it was like a bit of a hit or miss, you know? It was like, oh my God, I love this. This is so amazing. It's taking me back to, like it wasn't always great. So be careful with that tip, because it can be a bit triggering, which isn't a bad thing as well. Like when you're sad, allow yourself to be sad. Like allow yourself to express like, yeah, I miss that person, that's okay. But now I play these songs and I'm like, oh, you remember that time? Like I said, similar to scents, wearing perfumes, colognes obviously will remind you of that person. So I took his t-shirt when we were in Australia and I used it as my pajama top, and I wore it every night and I loved it. It was so great. He smelled, again, those first few days I literally just cried into it because I was sad, but it was still nice to have like that physicalness of like, it still feels like he's here with me. But then I wore it every day, and then all of my scent went on the t-shirt, and then I eventually had to wash it because it was like, okay, this is kind of gross, we need to clean this. And then I washed it, and then his scent kind of left the t-shirt, so that kind of sucked. Maximize your senses. Next point, I wrote maximize. I love maximize. Maximize being on your own. You get all this time to find yourself to be the best version of you for when you do reunite. Being a serial relationship girl, I was literally back-to-back relationship. It was so nice. Like everyone always says, you need to find yourself, be on your own before you get into a relationship, and I wasn't trying to say that as like a mocking thing. I 100% agree. Having that distance and having that time to be able to be with me and do what I want to do and learn about myself was actually so nice. A relationship is that coexisting partnership instead of being codependent, which I literally had been in every other relationship prior. You get to learn to like love your own time. You get to learn to be like, I love doing this for me and being on my own and finding my own interests. So then when you do come together, that's the thing, like we're together now, we do still do our own separate things. We're not always like tied together at the hip. Like obviously we definitely enjoy doing things together naturally as a couple, you do, but you still need, like, you're still your own person at the end of the day. So you still need to be doing your own thing. Okay, next one I wrote is remember that it's you two against the long distance relationship. And that's like quite vague, but I think where I was trying to get with that is similar to when I said like quality communication as the first point. Communication, I know, like it's so cliche, everyone speaks about it and you hear it all the time, but it is so important. And you do have a disagreement, you do need to speak about it straight away. Like if you don't and you just kind of let it sit for days, like you get more in your head, because especially with Mark's and my time zone where I was in Australia, which is the complete night and day opposite to here. So if we don't like iron things out in that moment, it'll be in my head, and he's already asleep, so we can't talk about it. I don't have that option to now like continue to speak about it and vice versa. So it was so important to iron it out straight away. And I learned how to communicate. It's so crazy, but I really did. Like I was that girl who we would have a fight and then I would not speak to you. I will ignore you because this is what I've learned how to manage fights from what I had seen growing up. Ignore you, wait for the other person to apologize. They don't know what they're apologizing for, so now I'm even more mad at you because you don't even know what you're apologizing for. So now I'm not going to speak to you even more, and then that just snowballs, which is so unhealthy. I know, it is so toxic. Don't do that. And like, you know, that was really not an option in long distance. And so I learned to be like, hey, like drop your pride, like even if you're upset, like speak to the person. And that was a me problem, obviously. That's nothing to do with being in a long distance. That's nothing to do with a relationship. This is a me problem. But that came to the surface, and it was really nice to figure that out and be like, girl, this is not okay. What is going on here? And then most of the time, which we hardly ever had disagreements, but when we did, it was always just a miscommunication thing. And I was like, why was I in my head this whole time? And then as, you know, time went by and those odd hiccups would come and I would speak about it and vice versa, that like open communication and that honesty became easier and easier and easier to do. It's you two, it's a we against whatever you're going through. Always, always. Whether in long distance, whether you're together, always. Final one, have an end goal. I mean, obviously, right? But like, it's so important. It's so important that you have that, like, okay, what is the plan? We're not gonna be doing long distance for the rest of our lives. We need to figure out, you coming to me or am I coming to you? What's the situation? Here's the thing, in my relationship, the original plan was for Mark to come to Australia. I wasn't actually meant to come here. That was always the original plan. And then as time went by, this was even pre-COVID, this was even pre him coming to Australia. As time went by, I started to be like, no, I kind of wanna come here. Like I wanna explore the world. I wanna challenge myself. I wanna push myself. And then he got a really good secure job, kind of made him be like, yeah, I kind of want to stay here if that's okay, if that could work. And so it was so interesting how it was like, how the tables turned in that sense in our favor. Like I wanted to move and he got a really secure, amazing job. So we're like, yes, let me come to you. And that needs to be one of those things that needs to be like discussed early on. Like it needs to be completely put on the table. Guys, if you're still at this point of the video and you're watching because you are in a long distance, just know it's more than possible. You've got this. I know it's hard. And like I said before, like if you're feeling shitty and sad, you're allowed to feel shitty and sad. You're allowed to have those days of feeling low and you just want to cry it out. But as long as you're still picking yourself up, you don't want to dwell in it. Understand as well that like you will get judgment from people no matter what. Like the amount of little jokes and little like snide remarks that I got throughout my time when I was in Australia from various different people, I was like, oh, there it is. Just understand, you know, that long distance isn't for everyone. And even like prior to meeting Mark, I was that girl who was like, I would never do long distance, ever, ever, ever. So I completely respect when people say like, I can't do it, it's not for me. I need to have that person there. Like that's the whole point of a relationship, right? I get that. I completely do. But it's like, it's just one of those things it's life. One of those things that's out of your control. It's like the circumstances of how fate is. If you do get to fall into that story and have that storyline of a long distance, it's like, that's just so special. That's something that you get to share and hold on to, and it's part of you and your partner. Take each day, one day at a time. Oh my goodness. Did those one day at a time feel like the longest days though? Anyway, enough chatting for me. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that thumbs up. I normally don't say it, but like now working on YouTube videos and trying to be consistent and doing that grind and doing that editing, like I now respect YouTubers out there who are consistent, who are making incredible videos, because it's like, it is hard work. Like the time and effort behind all of this is hard work. So I would really appreciate it if you do hit that thumbs up. It supports me, it motivates me so much. Anyway, thank you for watching my video and I will see you in my next video.
Bye.